So I hear you like an underdog story. Well, I'm here to tell you about the ultimate underdog, Queen Elizabeth I. Born the random middle daughter of a king, she was never even supposed to be the queen. She grew up being consistently beaten down and neglected. But when her father and all of her siblings died, ruling England was up to her. And Elizabeth approached her new role as queen really strategically. And part of Elizabeth's strategy was to play the middle. Because you see, both her brother and her sister had ruled England before her, and both of them had taken pretty extreme stances on things like religion. And because that had caused a slew of issues for her siblings, Elizabeth took notes. And this is actually part 2 of Elizabeth's story, so if you want to know more about her during her siblings' reign, you can always go back and watch it. But before Elizabeth even took the crown, she knew she was going to have to put in a lot of work, probably twice as much as a king would have to put in. So Elizabeth headlined her own Beyoncé Renaissance tour all across England, meeting her subjects and establishing a good relationship and reputation as queen. And soon, people are obsessed with her, and she holds her elaborate coronation in January 1559 to roaring, cheering crowds. And Elizabeth put in work to be louder than her haters that were calling her illegitimate because of her mom's reputation haunting her. Her mom got beheaded for treason by her dad. It's in the playlist if you want to learn more. And Elizabeth was the last one to have a Catholic coronation in England, though, to be fair, she did modify it a lot. And she gets to work. She reinstates the English Book of Prayer that her brother's government made, but of course with new holy information, because holy books are a tool that is ever-changing for the English government at this time. And Elizabeth mostly just let the Catholics do their thing. She didn't take the church land and sell it off to her friends. She didn't strip the churches to sell off the decor. She didn't try to use the language to control the masses, like her father and brother did during their terrible reigns as king. And speaking of her father, King Henry VIII, England still hasn't recovered from his insane spending and decimation of the economy, since his last 2 kids to take the throne didn't live long enough to really get anything done. So Elizabeth has to focus all her attention to this queen shit. She has to work out this religious intolerance, the crops are fucked, and honestly, the economy is in shambles. But if there's one solution a Tudor monarch has, it's build ships. And England has a bunch of ships, but Spain has more. And England does not have the coin to put up to build these massive war fleets like Spain. So England gets clever, and they start building smaller multi-purpose boats used for trade, cargo, war, exploration, and fishing. They're little, they're quick, and they're zip-zapping around the ocean. And with these new sick-ass boats, they start investing in fishing explorations to Newfoundland to get cod. Because these people are horny for dried cod all over Europe. And in the early years of Elizabeth's reign, she is very conservative with her spending and can't rely on taxation because, well, everyone's broke as fuck. So even when it came to her gowns, her ladies-in-waiting were kind of tearing shit apart and remaking them to make it look like she was constantly up to date with new gowns and dresses befitting a queen. She's young and she's pretty, so she's pulling it off. But she's also unmarried, and like her sister before her, doesn't have a child to make her heir. And the English people start getting pretty uncomfy with this, especially because the next claim to the throne would be the Catholic Mary Queen of Scots, the granddaughter of Margaret Tudor, who was Elizabeth's aunt and King Henry VIII's oldest sister. And men are lining up to get with the queen, and she's entertaining the hot rich ones, but ultimately declares she'd rather be single and the Queen of England than married and some dude's wife, since getting married would mean she would be making a king, and a king always outranks the queen. And plus, her old familiar friend, Robert Dudley, is still right there by her side. And of course, she gives him all the fun jobs at court so that they can just hang out and ride horses together whenever they feel like it. Soon, his chambers are moved next to hers, and the two of them are flirting so much that people start talking. And they are not pumped about the queen's favorite, who is this married man. And in September 1560, Robert Dudley's wife dies under some very suspicious circumstances. And people were quick to call foul play on the queen and Robert Dudley. And Robert Dudley's like, no, she was not murdered. She was alone and fell down the stairs and broke her neck. Nothing to see here. And Elizabeth kind of distanced herself from Robert Dudley at this time because she's not looking to get wrapped up in some murder conspiracy and start a rebellion. Which is why I low-key don't think they had anything to do with it, because they had to have known they would have been suspect number 1 and 1.5 on the crime. But that is my own cold case detective work on the matter. They're still besties though, and they're going to continue to meet up in secret, while Elizabeth starts putting in some work on her Virgin Queen image, even stealing lines from her sister Mary's battle speech, calling herself the mother of her subjects and being married to the realm. And Elizabeth heavily funded the arts and portraits of herself to solidify that in people's minds. But that obviously didn't stop the royal suitors from trying to take her hand in marriage. I mean, even Ivan the Terrible tried to get with Elizabeth. And the way you guys feel about the Tudors is the way I feel about Ivan the Terrible, so I need you guys to get into that. Back to Elizabeth. After like 15 years as an unmarried queen, Robert Dudley decides this is his time. He's really gonna wow her. And he put on a grand spectacle to convince her to pick him. But she refused and she had to level with him. Like, look, Stink, I'm a woman, you're a man. If we get married, you'll outrank me and I'll be the king's wife, and we're not doing that. Since Elizabeth basically just had a lifelong masterclass from her mother, stepmothers, and sisters about how dangerous it is to be a married queen. But the suitors and the negotiations for marriage is a dance she did very delicately. Since her family life and love life has been political since she was born, she knows how to play her part. However, after her last refusal of Robert Dudley, he went out and married her lookalike cousin, and knocks her up. And Elizabeth is furious. She is so jealous that her main fling is now fucking her lookalike cousin that she banishes them both from court. Though of course she forgives Robert Dudley and brings him back. But moving on, in 1562, Elizabeth gets smallpox. She recovered and she didn't have any lingering health conditions. However, she was extremely scarred on her face from the pox, which is not great for a queen renowned for her beauty. Often used her beauty as a tool when manipulating dumbass men. But fear not, besties, because she becomes a beauty influencer and guru and she starts using heavy makeup to cover her scars. Which is great, except it's lead-based foundation and mercury-based lipsticks, so it's actually super fucked. And taking that daily lead and mercury to the dome caused her hair to fall out. So now she's got a Moira Rose-sized collection of wigs. But this extreme makeup and wig combo is really hard to pull off if you're not in a 1970s rock band. So she has to step up her outfit game as well, with a lot of jewels and ruffles, to distract from the face. And if you're like, wow, that's kind of ugly, but at least it can't get any worse, buckle up. Because we've got a lot of trade happening with the Americas, and Queen Elizabeth has fallen in love with one expensive import particularly. She loves sugar. Full-blown sugar addiction, brains lighten up like a Christmas tree with those instant dopamine hits. And the reason this is an issue is because we are way before modern dentistry at this point, and the Queen's teeth and gums begin to rot, making her breath disgusting. They also just had not a fucking clue, so she would brush her teeth with sugar as well, thinking it was helping the situation. Also, to hide her bad breath, she would stuff her gums with like linen soaked in essential oils. So honestly, as the years went by, she was just looking scarier and scarier. Just some toothless, hairless, lead-poisoned lady. Now imagine that running at you full speed. No. And culturally, the most significant thing to come out of Elizabeth's reign was the literature. Specifically, William Shakespeare. And she loved throwing money at the playwrights. And eventually, that boat investing she did earlier is paying off. They've locked down Newfoundland for exclusive fishing perks, and trade and exploration have exploded. But tensions with Spain have started to build as the years go on, and especially with Mary Queen of Scots in the picture, since Spain would much rather that Mary Queen of Scots be ruling England. And Elizabeth, knowing this, is very hesitant to name Mary Queen of Scots her heir to avoid any bullshit plots from the Spanish. And I could breeze through Mary Queen of Scots and Elizabeth's defeat of the Spanish Armada, but I think that would be a big injustice to the story. And I'm a little bit afraid you guys would jump me because the only thing you ever want to hear about is Mary Queen of Scots. So we're gonna get all into the death of Mary Queen of Scots and Elizabeth's defeat of the Spanish Armada. You know, that battle on the ocean where Elizabeth was outgunned, outmanned, and still fucked up Spain. Miss Girl sending boats out in the night like a fucking renegade. So I'll tell you the next part of Elizabeth's crazy reign in the next one.